Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Play Metroid Zero Mission, the 2004 remake of the original NES game Metroid, which started it all. Alas, it really hasn't aged well. This, on the other hand, well, I have nothing but good things to say about Metroid Zero Mission. But let's start. The ship looks a little awkward, but it's looked weirder. There's really not a whole lot of story to this game, just little bits and pieces of narration that Samus does, and little anime-style cut-ins, and we should know this place. We've only been here 3 times if you played Metroid 1, Super Metroid, and now this game. Well, we start off with the iconic Morph Ball. And of course, this music, that music, the original Metroid music, remastered in... Is this 16-bit audio? I don't know. I've heard... It definitely sounds better than the original. Anyways, unlike Adam, the computer, directing us exactly where we should go and, you know, telling us bits and pieces of backstory that we don't really care about, like Metroid Fusion, you know, it just tells us with Chozo statues where the next item you probably want to get is going to be. And I like this. You know, it keeps things very open-ended, up to interpretation, and, you know, it adds to the backstory of the Chozo originally being the ones who inhabited planet Zebes. Yes, I'll call it Zebes now, since that's the original or official pronunciation, whatever. But it leads us to our first upgrade besides the Morph Ball, which is useless! The Long Beam. I only really go for this if I'm going for 100% runs of the game. It's a little bit out of the way. It's built into every other version of Samus's beam besides this one. I think it's in Metroid 2 as well. No, I think it's built in Metroid 2 as well, meaning that the only games that this actually shows up in are this one and the original Metroid. So, blah. Are we going to Turian already? No, not really. You just have to see that little room with the Siamese heads of Ridley and Kraid. But yes. Again, the original Metroid is a game that hasn't aged well at all. I mean, I'm sure there's many people who still enjoy playing it, but there's so many things that Super Metroid, and even Metroid 2, introduced to make the formula quite a bit more tolerable than the original. I mean, hallways of everything looking the same, always starting with 30 energy after you die, despite the fact that you can have a gajillion energy tanks. This is what I'm talking about, by the way. This is how you get to this door without the long beam. So, that's all you really need it for. But, yeah, the original Metroid, I can't play it, guys. I've tried again and again. I can get to Norfair, and then when I die, I just keep getting my ass handed to me, trying to grind for energy, for missiles, and stuff like that. So, it's probably not a game that you guys are ever going to see me play, but hey, we get to play the remake, which is almost universally accepted to be the version that you want to play if you're going to play the events of Metroid 1 again. But this wasn't in Metroid 1. This centipede boss thingy. I don't know where it is. What I don't show you here is that this boss can actually escape, and you find it further on in Brinstar, and I don't know if it shows up anywhere else, but I kill it on first try, get the charge beam, which was not in Metroid 1. And unlike Metroid Fusion, where at a certain point the normal beam is virtually useless and you have to charge beam to kill enemies without missiles, the charge beam really isn't all that necessary. You sure as heck don't need it for runs that aren't 100%. Low percentage runs almost always go without the charge beam, so And I'll be talking about many different ways that you can play through this game. Obviously, there's the normal path that I start going through, but I sort of change things up right after I get the bombs, which, let's be honest, completely break this game. But I guess this is the other room where the long beam would be kind of helpful. But other than that, there's really no utility to it besides, I don't even think you needed it in the original Metroid, did you? I don't know. I know so little about that game, but due to having... the only way I actually beat that game was using the Narpa sword code. But... did I mention how good this arrangement of the music is? And I really love how everything is hand-drawn in the background. Giving, it's better than the just plain black that was in the original Metroid. In every area you went, every area has a background, so you can kind of identify it in certain ways. Like there's the blue shaft, there's the red shaft. That's what she said. That's not what I'm going to be talking about, but yeah. For the most part, the things that were in the original Metroid, they try to keep relatively true to the geography of the remake, which, is certainly what a remake should strive to be. Basically everything from the original, every bit of nostalgia, and adding new things to freshen it up. In this game's case, it's pretty much Super Metroid 2, with the physics of Metroid Fusion, with the exception of wall jumping is, you can infinite wall jump on a single wall again, which you could not do in Fusion. Of course, you haven't seen me play Fusion yet, but for those of you who have played Fusion, you know what I'm talking about. Again, the storytelling is very, very almost non-verbal to a degree, which is more than I can say for Fusion. But the other thing that transitions very well from Super Metroid that really doesn't from Fusion, sequence breaking! And unlike the many of the sequence breaks that occurred in Super Metroid, almost everything in this game was intentionally put in by the developers as a way of saying, well, hey, you want to play the game one way, that's fine. You want to play the game a different way, a la Super Metroid, with skipping items and doing different paths and all that stuff. The game was designed specifically so that players could challenge themselves. There's ways that you can go through this game skipping, like I said, the long beam, the charge beam you don't even need to pick up. And there are endings, special endings, for beating the game with less than 15% of the items. So. And I will be showing off every ending screen at the end of the LP. Whether I do multiple runs of this game, I don't know. Basically, what this run is going to be is a run through Zero Mission, 100% item pickup on normal difficulty in under 2 hours, which is not too hard if you know where you're going, or if you have a set path for yourself like I did. But the first major sequence break, as you saw, was bomb jumping up to here, but there's more bomb jumping we have to do. And wall jumping is really downplayed to a large degree. You don't have to wall jump many places in Zero Mission to sequence break. It's mostly bomb jumping, as you're seeing. And the rhythm is actually very, very simple. Trust me, if my friend who really isn't that good at Metroid can bomb jump, I'm sure anybody can bomb jump. Just, if you play a musical instrument, or if you have any sort of pattern timing in your head, you can bomb jump. With little to no practice, you can bomb jump. For areas like this, where having a new item would help, I'm not going to say what the item is yet, but you're supposed to have the ice beam, the high jump, in order to even get here, and you're supposed to have, the new item in order to grip onto areas and then roll into them with the morph ball. Not too bad, though. If you get good at bomb jumping, you can get the Varia suit early, we're not supposed to have this, like I said, until the high jump, the ice beam. We're essentially not supposed to have this until after we've defeated Kraid. So, and yes, since this is the original Metroid game, Ridley and Kraid are indeed in this game. Mother Brain is obviously the final boss of the game, or of Metroid 1, I should say. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, now that we have the Varia suit, like I said, bombs pretty much break the game. If you're good at bomb jumping, there's pretty much nothing that you can't get out of sequence. So, that being said, now that we have the Varia suit, we've further cheesed the game by making acid completely pointless, and acid is the main obstacle in Brinstar and Kraid's lair. So, most of the environmental damage we would be taking no longer affects us. So. And this is something that you don't have to get. This is not a major upgrade. It's just for a missile expansion. But me being me, since I'm here, I always like to get something that I can the first time I can. So, this being my first visit to this area, I try, in vain, to bomb jump up. And then because I'm playing this on the GameCube controller with the Game Boy Player emulator, it's really, really, really difficult for me to perform any of the precision stuff that I could with the Game Boy Advance's control pad. I know that you can use the GBA as a controller if you have the Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable, but me, I can't find mine, so I'm forced to use this method until GameStop ships the $1 cable to my nearest store. So I don't know. When I have it, I might do another run of the game, doing a 15% run. I don't know. I doubt it, but I do love this game. And for people to say, I could seriously understand people saying that they prefer this to Super Metroid. I could, because Super Metroid is definitely a game that takes a little bit more skill and practice to master, all the different sequence breaks that I do. And of course, the fact that all of the sequence breaks in this game are 100% intentional. Like I said, the developers wouldn't include a 15% ending if you couldn't skip some of the items by a combination of bomb jumping and secret passages and all that stuff, which I will be showing off to a very large degree in this run, even though it's a 100% run. Anyways, it's finally time to go down to Norfair. Oh, but wait. Someone's watching us. She's got her eye on us. And that demonic eye. We'll be shooting a missile into that eye pretty darn soon. Anyways, welcome to Norfair. It's funny, I've always... it's an interesting dichotomy that I prefer the original Norfair theme to the one in Super Metroid, because the Super Metroid one is just mostly environmental sounds, sounds like singeing or something. I don't know. I don't know what I've identified it with, but this is actually melodic. And it's funny because the Ridley's Lair theme, I've always preferred the Super Metroid version. The Lower Norfair Magmore Caverns song. So, I've always considered, if anybody were to fan hack Metroid properly, in my opinion, they would include the Norfair theme, either from the original Metroid. This one is better in basically every way because it's got extra instruments and the choir in the background and stuff like that. They would include the original Norfair track, preferably from this game, and Ridley's Lair, Lower Norfair from Super Metroid / Metroid Prime. But this, I'm in my rambling, I forgot to mention that now we're at Criteria, which, showed up in the original Metroid, but wasn't there. And we just got an unknown item, an unknown beam at that. So what beam, besides the charge beam, has Samus not gotten in the original Metroid? Well, if it starts with a P and ends with an A, and is 2 syllables, yeah, that's probably that beam. But we're not supposed to know that yet. And in fact, if you look closely, all of the unknown items in this game, which are items from other Metroid games, later Metroid games, mostly Super, that she didn't get in Super Metroid, all have the same design. So, of course you can tell that's the plasma beam from how it looked in Super Metroid, the little item design. And we got the power grip, so me being me, I'm going to bomb jump past most of this. I've actually bomb jumped past all of it on many occasions, but of course, since this is the GameCube controllers, there's a slight delay in the button presses, it seems. And the control stick has nothing on the control pad. But this is the screen where Samus' ship is parked. I don't actually go and see it until a little bit later, but it's there, in case you don't know. You can restock there like you could in Super Metroid, so... We're done with Criteria for now, and it's time to go back down to Norfair. And another thing that I forgot to mention, which of course the Varia suit can do, for anybody who has played Metroid before, the Varia suit makes you resistant to heat rooms, which are actually outlined in red on the map, unlike other Metroid games where they don't have a special identifier for when a room is hot or whatever. They might in Fusion, I don't remember. I've played this so many more times than Fusion. I like to make a frequent habit out of keeping my beam charged so that you can, do the pseudo screw attack or the ghetto screw attack, whatever people call it, and basically just somersault into enemies and damage or kill them on impact. Pretty good feature that, again, wasn't available in the original Metroid because it wasn't invented yet. It's not that I fault the original Metroid for being so limited, it's just that the game has not aged well and I can't very well play it. A, because it's challenging as hell. I mean, there's so many unfair points of the game where you enter a room and an enemy will immediately just zing right into you and there's nothing you can do about it but take it like a bitch. But, whatever. And I guess that's another thing that the original Metroid didn't have, was heated rooms. So that really begs the question of what the Varia suit was used for besides just a damage modifier. It couldn't really even protect you from acid. It was more or less used just to reduce the damage from environmental hazards and reduce damage from enemies. And, again, I have to get everything that I can the first time that I come to a room, despite the fact that I'm going to be coming through this room again later with the ice beam and the high jump. But I have to complicate things, because I'm Lan. Because I can. And you can see what I'm just talking about. There's a orangish little square on the map signifying that this is indeed a superheated room, as if the steam throughout it couldn't let you know that much. You could probably get that missile expansion. I mean, you don't take too much damage from heated rooms, so you could probably get that missile expansion without the Varia suit. And then, what you accomplish by doing that is, having to, or preventing yourself from doing it later, and getting it done now so you don't forget it. Anyways, finally time for our first actual beam upgrade. I don't count the long beam. The ice beam. And I really like, if there's one thing that I can say about Zero Mission, it's that they took a lot of the bits from Super Metroid and made them better. Now, there's no run button, so, I mean, obviously that's, a good and a bad thing. But there's no run button. You're just automatically running. And also, a big problem that Super Metroid had, which is why so many people would turn off the ice beam after getting, like the wave beam or the plasma beam, is that it would always add another hit to every single enemy. Didn't matter what it was. If it was weak as crap and you could just instantly destroy it with any other beam, the ice beam would always turn it into a frozen platform. Well, in this game, if the enemy is weak enough to die in one hit without the ice beam being taken into account, it'll die in one hit and not freeze. Now, in some circumstances, that can be a bit of a bad thing, but for the most part, it's much better. The beams in this game stack without being able to... Well, everything in this game stacks without being able to be turned off. Like, that's something that they introduced in Fusion. So you can't, like, turn off your ice beam or your plasma beam or your Varia suit or anything like that, like you could in Super. So them having that just tells us that they really learned a lot from their design in Fusion and incorporated quite a bit from the combination of Fusion and Super Metroid and crafted what is easily one of the best 2D installments in the series. And which is actually the latest 2D installment in the series. They haven't made a 2D game since. Come on, Nintendo. It's been 8 years. Seriously. Where's Metroid Dread? Metroid 5. Give it to us. But that was actually a shortcut that I took, and we're actually right next to Ridley's lair. In fact, if I wanted to, I could go down and fight Ridley first, which you could do in the original Metroid, but it's a little bit out of the way in Zero Mission, so. But I'm not going to actually fight Ridley first. I'm just going to go down here for the sake of getting the high jump, and like Fusion, the high jump gives you the ability to spring ball. It's built in all in one, like it was in Fusion, unlike Super Metroid. Which is a good thing, because in Super Metroid, the spring ball was a completely optional item that you didn't need in the slightest. Adds morph ball jumping capability. So, we can jump ball, spring ball, whatever you want to call it. And we have a higher jump, which is going to make platforming a lot easier when you combine it with the power grip. You can pretty much go wherever you want now. Which is why we're next going to be going to Kraid's lair. It's actually where you're supposed to go next, but you guys have no idea how many times that I've played through this game in the past, like 36 hours. I think this is probably my, what is it, like my 6th or 7th playthrough of Zero Mission. Again, like Super Metroid, it's one of those games where I can beat it, and then it's so good that I can go back and beat it a second time in a row. But anyways, I will see you guys next time on Let's Play Zero Mission, where we go down to Kraid's lair, kill the big bastard, and get some more items that we didn't have in the original Metroid outing. So on that note, have a good day, everybody.